All right, so here's a video I'm hoping will help some people and actually save them time and money with some lessons I learned. I don't want to say the hard way because nothing bad happened, but it was definitely a waste of time and money in the end. And so, anyway, if you have a 2020 Street Triple RS or a 2020 Street Triple R, that's the 765 model, not the A2 compliant 660cc model in Europe. So, if you got a 2020, and what applies here, everything you know about the 2017s, 18s, 19s does not apply to this bike. This is a Euro 5 bike. The others were Euro 4. Completely different animal. So the things that you think work in TuneECU don't work quite the way you'd think. Just because you're going to add a slip-on to a 2017, 18 and do a 12-minute tune, if your dealer's telling you, oh yeah, there's an aero map we can put in there for you, they're lying. There is no Aero. There is no Tour, which is the Triumph off-road map. Those have not been around and not been offered for the 765s from Triumph. Never. They had them for the 675s. There are no maps like that for the 765. So if you've got a 2017, 18, 19 Street Triple R, RS, things like that, and you put a slip on and they say, yeah, we're going to drop a map in and we'll just charge you an hour. They are literally starting up the bike with nothing, don't touch the throttle, don't touch anything, and letting it sit there for 12 minutes to run some basic adaptations. And it's only doing a little bit of tuning down here in this area and within a very small window. So don't fall for that. Anyway, this is about the 2020. When you add slip-ons, the Euro 5 bikes are strict with fueling. The changes the ECU can make and overcome for putting in an air filter and an exhaust and things like that is minimal. These things are at the edge of running too lean from the factory, and as soon as you start monkeying around with it, these things will get stupid lean. It can cause stalling issues that I've experienced. So anyway, here's how to do it. What I tried doing was TuneECU. You can go and load up a map. So there's in my case, let's see, how did I get there? Let's see, open. All right, so let's go up. We'll go to my downloads. 31044, that's the map. You can go to TuneECU's site. They'll tell you basically what country you're in, what VIN number range, all that stuff, and they'll point you towards a map. This is the one for the US map, 31044. These are your F tables. That's fuel 1, so for cylinder 1. You've got fuel 2 for cylinder 2, cylinder 3. The L tables, the way it works is that your bike will look at your RPM range, which is right here on the left-hand side, and then your throttle input, and it gives this much fuel. I don't know what these numbers mean, but it means something to the ECU. It gives it that much fuel. If you go to the L tables, it's not based off of RPMs, it's based off of load and vacuum pressure. Don't want to get too much into that. We're going to spend our time on the fuel tables. And that's where we spend our time tuning. You can go down into the ignition tables and change some and add some ignition advance and things like that. How you do these things is instead of going into each one, you would swipe to the right and... What the hell am I doing? Why is it not working? Let's go the other direction. Swipe right. Try to do this with a mouse. It's made for a touchscreen. And there's your trim tables. So if you wanted to add fuel here, you could hit table, modify, go in, highlight that cell, and then you could, add 6% fuel or, whatever you want to do based on what you're reading on the dyno. We're not going to do that. When you want to tune a 2020, you want to use a combination of things in order to tune the bike properly. So what you're going to want to do is very simple. Load up your stock base map, go to map, go to parameters, change your rev limit. So if you want to increase your rev limit a little bit, raise it up to 12.8, give you a little bit of over rev if you're doing track days. If you're not doing track days and don't ride like that, don't worry about it. What you do want to do is go to devices, disable SAI, disable O2 sensor. Just unclick those, hit OK. So load up a stock map, parameters, devices, and uncheck those boxes, and then you can follow my other tutorial where when you connect to the ECU, you go under ECU, and once it's connected, there'll be a button called reprogram, and just follow the instructions and you can flash this base map. So all you're doing is raising rev limiter, disabling the secondary air injection system, and disabling the O2 sensors. Once you've gone through the 18-minute flash process on your ECU, you can go ahead and unplug and take out the O2 sensor and then put a bung plug in the exhaust header where it was. That's going to allow you to tune the bike. Here's the lesson that we learned. When we went through this, we tuned it all here, and we got the bike pretty close. It was running pretty well. What we found was down in this area here, it was running horrendously lean to the point where it was stalling. We had an air fuel ratio at one point of like 18. I mean, it was dangerously lean. Now, luckily, you weren't getting detonation or any weird things like you would under load at a higher throttle position up here, but that could be a problem long term, and it certainly was making the bike run like shit. So we would go into these tables and we would add 10%, 20% fuel. Spend 18 minutes flashing it to the damn bike, because every time you push it to the bike, the old style when you had it over the laptop and a cable, it was very quick. The first flash was long, and then every time you sent something new, it only sent the new changes. With the Bluetooth and Android app, and at least in my case on the 2020, it sends the whole damn map every time. So I could come in and make one change, and then I got to turn the bike off, and I got to spend 17 to 18 minutes pushing that change. And then if you make another, you can see how that would take freaking forever. So what we found was after doing it and taking 5 or 6 hours to tune the damn bike, it just wasn't making the changes that we wanted in this area. We'd add 20%, 50%, 70% to the point where it should have been so stinking rich, right? There should have been gas practically coming out the damn tailpipe. Not really, but you get my point. We were putting in enough fuel in there that it should have made it from going crazy lean to stinking rich. It made zero difference. So what we have deduced here, and we're waiting for confirmation from the guys that write this, but they're being kind of close-lipped and not answering the question, is I think they're worried about getting sued, just like DynoJet got sued by California for $9, $9 million. Harley Davidson got sued for bypassing emissions and stuff like that. And so I think he's worried about getting sued between the EU and California and stuff. So while you can tune the rest of the bike, down in this area, maybe they do the DOT or the EPA testing, idle and off idle. You could put whatever you want in these areas. Doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Nothing changes. And so in my case, because of the Krapovich race exhaust, removing the cats, BMC race filter, we made some significant changes to the flow of the motor, which paid dividends because we unlocked a good bit of horsepower up top. But this area was a problem. So here's what you need to do. Take your stock map, just make those couple simple changes. Do not worry about tuning the bike here. Get yourself a damn power commander. Go in and get whatever map, I think this is the one I used, and make your adjustments here. Use a power commander. It's way faster because on the dyno he can see, because as you're running the motor, you'll see an area here will highlight and show you what RPM and what throttle position you're at. And you look at the air fuel ratio, and if it's 15, you come in and just click and add 10 and hit enter, and it instantly sends it to the power commander, and you can watch on the dyno in real time how the motor reacts. And this is the only way you can tune around that low end area. And the reason for it is the ECU will not change. It's going to send what it wants to send, which is what it's hard programmed to send. In TuneECU, they chose not to override that in that area. So rather than waste your time trying to tune and then having the bike run stupid lean, just use TuneECU to go ahead and disable the O2 sensors, pull them out, pull it out. It's only got one. And then get a power commander. You don't have, it's plug and play. It plugs into the injectors, plugs into the throttle position sensor and sensor and the crank position sensor. It's just a plug in. You don't have to splice wires, anything like you used to. Just plug the damn thing in and then get it on a dyno and come in here and start tuning. Now, this is not my final map. My final map looks quite a bit different. I just highlighted this area because that's the area that needs the fuel that you cannot tune with TuneECU. And so you'll come in and you'll just tune the bike. And your dyno operator will thank you because you spend more time with TuneECU waiting for it to update the ECU. It's 18 minutes every time you push a change. So you want to do a bunch of changes at once, but then you got to retest. And what if you added too much fuel in one area and not enough in another? You got to make some changes. Got to go back in and flash it for 18 minutes. And of course, there's always a chance of something going wrong every time you flash the ECU. We had that problem happen once where I had to go and it had to go into recovery mode. Well, that takes 50 minutes, almost an hour. So save yourself the headache. I did. Use TuneECU to open up your stock map, go in and change those parameters under devices, disable them, send it to the ECU, and then stop using TuneECU. At that point, put in your power commander or rapid bike or pizzazz or any of those other things. You don't have to use a power commander, but you want to use the piggyback system. And the reason why this works and TuneECU doesn't is the power commander or the aftermarket fuel management system. You unplug the injector from the bike and plug it into the power commander, and then you plug the power commander into the injector. So it intercepts the signal that the ECU is sending, which is not enough fuel in this case, and it adds fuel to that. And because the O2 sensor is disabled in TuneECU, the computer, the bike has no way of knowing that you're intercepting and rerouting and adding a different signal and giving it the fuel that the motor wants. It doesn't know that, so it won't throw an error code. It won't try to take it away. That's just how it works. And then come through and do what we did here and do it through the rest based on what the motor needs. You're going to have negative here, positive there, and just let your tuner do his thing, and he will thank you. My tuner was so happy when I came back. Sorry, Charles, at HFD1 Tuning. He's familiar with TuneECU, but this 2020 gave us both headaches. It was nothing but a pain in the ass on this particular bike. Works brilliantly on other bikes, but if you got a 2020, save yourself some trouble. Now, one last thing here. What I would use this for is if you have a 2020 Street Triple R. For the 17, 18, and 19s, they had different cams, different tunes, different ignition tables. They were slightly different motors, and that's why it had more torque down low, but lost horsepower up top, as opposed to the RS, which gave up a little down low, but gained it on top. For 2020, it's the same motor. What they do is if you open up, go find out whatever your stock map is for your, for your R, for your region and VIN number, and go down past the L tables and past the ignition, go to the ETV tables. ETV1, that's rain mode. ETV2 is road. ETV3 is sport. What you'll notice on those, this is your ride-by-wire throttle tables. So when you give it 100% throttle at, let's say, 6,000 RPMs right here, the engine's going to give you 100% throttle. But you'll notice here on the rain mode, it starts to pull back. So just as this motor wants to start taking off, it says, no, even though you're giving it 100% throttle, I'm only going to give you this much. That's as much as we're going to give you. And so it's a torque limiting system. On the R, if you go, so it's one thing to hold it back, in rain mode. When you go to ETV2 and ETV3 on an R, you will see from 6,500 up, it starts pulling back. It is not giving you 100% power. That's a big deal. If you have an R, you can unlock this power. You still have all the low down torque and everything that you like about the R that they say makes it more streetable. Well, the RS has that too now. That was the big difference of 2020 is you got the low end and the mid of the R, but you got the top end of the RS. For 2020, if you have an R, you can come in and where it's going to say 80 something here and it's going to start pulling back. It doesn't. Look at your ETV2 and ETV3 tables on your 2020 R. You will find that it's pulling power back and not giving. Even though you're giving it 90% throttle, it's only going to give you 81. Even if you give it 100, it's only going to give you 81 above a certain RPM level. Go in, hit table, modify, and come in and open up these cells and just change them to 100 and save it and push it to your ECU. You will now have all the low down fun and streetability of your R model for 2020, and you're going to pick up a whole bunch of power up top like the RS for free. It's very cool. Anyway, hope this helps you guys.